All right. Well, today's lesson is about long division. And you can see that I have written down the steps of long division right up here at the top of my paper. And you feel free to do that as well. Divide, multiply, subtract, bring down. And I'm actually going to do the first 4 or 5 problems of our worksheet with you. And you might say, Miss Terry, I could do 40 divided by 4 in my head. And I know that you could, but this is a great problem to use to practice the steps of long division because you know what the answer is supposed to be. So let's do it the long division method. And I like to start by drawing a light line between my numbers there. And I want you to notice that my numbers are the right size to fit on my line, and my house is the right size. If you have made yours like this, I want you to erase it right now, and I want you to make it to fit onto the lines. We've talked about that all year long, and it's time for you to practice that. It will make math more, it will make it easier for you to see where your mistakes are. So I want you to erase it if you've made it a mess, and I want you to write it down neatly. All right, so we start with divide. We're going to start out here. This is our divisor. How many groups of 4 go into 4? I hope you said 1. And we're going to write our 1 up top like we've talked about in class. And then we multiply. And we multiply. We're always going to multiply a number up here by this divisor, always. That's never going to change. Something up here by this divisor. So 1 times 4 is 4, and we're going to write that right here. And then we're going to subtract 4 minus 4. Notice how I drew a nice neat line and a nice neat subtraction sign there. So make your numbers the right size and draw things neatly. 4 minus 4 is 0. And our next step is to bring down. And we're bringing down a 0. And you might say, oh, it's a 0. I don't need to worry about it. But yes, you do. You need it. So then we ask ourselves, how many groups of 4 go into 0? None. And the number for none is 0. So we write it right up there and we multiply. 0 times 4 is 0, which we put right here, and we subtract and end up with 0. And we have no more numbers to bring down. Now, if you'd said, oh, I have a 0, I can just stop. Well, then your answer is going to be 1. And that's very different from 10. So you cannot stop there. All right, the next problem on your worksheet is problem number 2. Notice how I wrote the number. I put a little dot by it so that I'll know it's the number of the problem and not part of the problem. I'm going to give it a little space, and I'm going to put my 8 here because that's my divisor. I'm going to draw my house neatly and write my 96 inside so that it fits. And if your numbers don't sit on the line, don't fit in the line, erase them and do them right. And now I'm going to draw my light line to divide my numbers. And I draw it lightly and I make it long so that I don't accidentally mistake it for a number 1. And we start with divide. How many groups of 8 go into 9? 1 group. We write it up there. 1 times 8 is 8, which we write right here. We draw our line and subtract. 9 minus 8 is 1. And then we bring down. We bring down the 6. And we go back to the top of our steps. We're back to divide. We say how many groups of 8 go into 16. This is the number, the divisor is the number that we're always trying to figure out how many groups of it go into these numbers. How many groups of 8 go into 16? That's going to be 2. Where do we write our 2 at? Up here. 2 times 8 is 16. We write it down there. We draw our line and subtract. 6 minus 6 is 0. 1 minus 6 is 0. We do not have anything left, so our final answer is 12. We're going to write down our next problem. I'm giving myself some space, so I'm putting my 3 over here, and 7's the divisor, divided by 84. All right, notice how there's space here and space here between my problems. We can use as much paper as possible. You want to be able to see your numbers, know what you're working with. I'm going to draw my nice, long, but light line there. And then I'm going to start with my steps. Divide, multiply, subtract, bring down. So, how many groups of 7 go into 8? I hope you said 1, which we write right up there. 1 times 7 is 7. It goes right there. Draw our line and subtract. 8 minus 7 is 1. Bring down our 4. Now we're dealing with 14. 7, how many groups of 7 is in 14? I hope you said 2. 2 times 7 is 14. We draw our line and subtract. 4 minus 4 is 0. 1 minus 1 is 0. We don't have another number to bring down. We have nothing left, so we have no remainder. Now I'm going to go on to problem number 4. Problem number 4, I'm going to skip a couple of lines so that my problems are separated, don't run into each other. My paper looks neat, and I won't get confused about what numbers go with what problems. So we have 45 divided by 3. Draw our nice, long, lightly drawn line between our two numbers. 3, how many groups of 3 go into 4? 1. 1 times 3 is 3, which we put right here. We draw our line and subtract. 4 minus 3 is 1. We bring down our 5. Now we're dealing with this. How many groups of 3 go into 15? I hope you said 5, which we're going to write right up here. 5 times 3 is 15, which we'll write right here. We draw our line. We subtract. We don't have another number to bring down. Our final answer is 15. The last problem I'm going to do with you is number 5. I'm going to write my number 5 right here. Notice I'm giving plenty of space and space between our last problem. And this problem is 90 divided by 9. 90 divided by 9. All right. So I'm going to also draw my nice, long, skinny line. If I had thought a little bit, oops, I did. I wrote that too high. I'm going to go back and erase that because this is where I wrote my 90 and my 9 because that gives me 2 lines of space between this problem and this problem, and I'm going to write my 5 over here. All right, how many groups of 9 go into 9? I hope you said 1. 1 times 9 is 9. Draw your line and subtract. This is where we could be tempted to quit. Say, oh, well, that's a 0. I'm done. Just says 0 there, but you're not. How many groups of 9 go into 0? None. So we have to write our 0 there. If we didn't do that step, we would have ended up with an answer of 1, which is a very different answer than 10. So 0 times 9 is 0. we subtract and get 0. We have nothing else to bring down. So remember, I talked about in class how sometimes I think of this as kind of a ladder, and we're working down the ladder because we start up here doing the division part, and then we move down here doing the division part. I bet you could figure out if we had a third digit here, we'd even be going down here. So our division kind of moves down this ladder. All right?